Welcome to the Fit 15 podcast show, where you'll find health and fitness inspiration, motivation, and information shared in 15-minute episodes. Tune in while getting a move on to make leading and enjoying the benefits of a healthy lifestyle almost too easy. It's the Fit 15. And now your host, Katherine Basu.
Welcome to the Fit 15 podcast show. I'm your host, Katherine Basu, and I'm really excited to introduce you to another Katherine Wuestenfeld, my guest today for the podcast, who 1 week ago today completed her first Boston Marathon. So very exciting time for Katherine. I had an amazing time chatting with Katherine last week to learn more about her experience at Boston, and can't wait to share that with you. For those of you who are listeners of the podcast or longtime listeners of the podcast, you're already going to probably guess what I'm going to tell you next. But that is that this episode is part one of my conversation with Katherine. As happens frequently when I talk to runners, I could not just talk to Katherine for 15 to 20 minutes. So in today's episode, you're going to get to hear Katherine's running journey, going from when she started running to qualifying for Boston. And then in tomorrow's episode, we'll continue our conversation, and Katherine will talk to us about her experience running the Boston Marathon last week. So lots to inspire you with Katherine's story. I'm really excited to share that with you. Just want to make sure you don't forget to subscribe so you don't forget to listen to the second half of our conversation tomorrow. All right, so who is Katherine Wuestenfeld? Katherine has been a runner for over 10 years. She started as a high school cross-country and track and field athlete and transitioned to road racing in college. Katherine had been chasing a Boston qualifier for 6 years before finally catching her unicorn at the Berlin Marathon in 2018. After Berlin, Katherine became an RRCA Certified Running Coach and is currently coaching with Team Sugar Runs. Katherine is just coming off a big PR of 3:20 at her first Boston Marathon and is excited to keep growing as a runner. Welcome to the podcast, Katherine. I'm so excited to have you as my guest today.
Thanks so much, Katherine. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah, so I didn't tell you this, but my plan is to release this on Monday because it'll be a week after the Boston Marathon, which you just completed. So can you tell us about, I guess we'll get to the race itself later, but could you tell us about your journey to Boston? How did this come about, getting to run the Boston Marathon?
Yeah, so I ran my first marathon when I was 19 years old, which I do not recommend to anyone to try to do. But my college that I went to had a marathon and half marathon every year. And I saw that and I was like, well, if I just do the half, I'm only doing half of the race. So I might as well sign up for the full marathon.
That's funny.
Yeah. So I signed up for the full marathon. I did follow like a basic training plan, but got super humbled in that race after about halfway when I realized that okay, these things are actually pretty hard. And so I finished in about a 4:10, which at the time the Boston Marathon qualifying time for my age group was a 3:35. So I realized I had a lot of work to do if I wanted to get there. And I think that I just had always set big goals being a runner throughout high school. This is something that was ingrained in me, is to reach for that next level, whether that be the state meet. And so for road racing, kind of Boston was the epitome of goals for road racers. And so set that as the big goal back in 2012. And it had a long progression to getting there. I ran about 6 marathons from 2012 to 2018 when I finally qualified at Berlin. But a couple DNFs in there, and it was a challenge for sure. But I just always in the back of my mind knew that I wanted to get there and prove to myself more than anything that I belonged at that level. So
yeah. Well, I mean, definitely, I feel like so many people have that story of just keep keep trying to get to Boston. So, I mean, what are some of the marathons that you did before getting to Boston? Just maybe tell people about any that you liked or would not do again.
Yeah, so my first marathon was at the Illinois Marathon in Champaign. So
Mm.
it's a flat course, really well supported, a smaller race since it's in central Illinois, but it draws a lot of people out. So it's a good first marathon. I did the Chicago Marathon 4 times, which most people know the Chicago Marathon, but if you
Yeah.
haven't done it, it's amazing, and I definitely recommend it. The weather can be pretty unpredictable in October, so that is one factor. And I've ran it in every condition, but
Sure.
it was neat to experience a big race with 40,000 other people running with me. And yeah, I ran the Illinois Marathon a couple other times, but actually DNF'd both times after that first time I ran it
Okay.
due to hypothermia. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, didn't have the best experience there.
Yeah. What time of year is that in then?
It's in the end of April
Okay.
normally, so
Okay.
it'll be pretty rainy and cold
Yeah.
in Chicago area.
Sure. Oh man. Okay, so you had some disappointments along the way, but what kind of kept you going? I mean, I know you said it was important to you, wanted to be able to reach that level, but you know, I feel like after a few setbacks, I've had some as well as as a runner. What kept you going and in the day to day of training and trying to get that qualifier?
Yeah, I think just having that goal and having made it so public to everyone around me. And I'm the type of person that I will put my goals out in public, whether that be on my blog or in person to my friends and family. And so people know what I'm going for. And
Mm-hmm.
I had kind of publicly committed to like that is what I was going for. It kind of kept me motivated to reach that. So after the first marathon, I did take a couple years off of trying marathoning. I was pretty young, still am
Yeah.
young, but a little too young to be doing marathons. So kind of regrouped and did some half marathons to get my speed down there, focus more on school. And then
Yeah.
coming out of college, then ran the Chicago Marathon for the first time. And it was the first time I broke 4 hours. And that was like the first time I'd kind of started realizing that like this is possible. Like I'd always known I would get there because it just like never was a question in my mind that I would get there. It was just a matter
Mm.
of when.
Hi, friends, it's Katherine Basu. And if you are tuning into this episode and using it to get in an out and back walk and only have 15 minutes, that sound was your halfway point reminder. You will want to turn around now. All right, back to our conversation.
But that 2015 race really gave me a lot of confidence that, okay, I cut off 13 minutes, just got to keep chipping away at it. And so I came back the next year at Chicago and kind of had a breakthrough race where I ran a 3:38. So I almost
Oh,
cut about
nice.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a really big confidence booster for me. I had changed my training, so that definitely played a factor. I used a plan that did more tempo runs and fartleks in there.
Mm.
So that made a big difference in my training and overall strength. And then I hit a plateau for a couple of years, unfortunately. But I think I had like little successes along the way. Like during that plateau, I then ran like a 1:41 half marathon. So it was little things
Mm-hmm.
that like kept me going, whether or not they were in the marathon, but just always like believing in myself and knowing that there were always things that I could change, and seeing other people around me, whether it be through like a running club or other friends who had reached that new level, that it's possible, and just taking inspiration from different areas.
Yeah. No, that's definitely something I love about the running community, right? I mean, sometimes people feel like it's intimidating if they're not runners yet to hang around runners or to maybe take that first step to become a runner, but really a supportive community is what I always find. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I joined the Instagram community a couple years ago, but it's been amazing just how much that's changed running for me. I'm part of a local running club too, so I did have that community, but
mhm.
I have a community of people who are also chasing similar goals like Boston and seeing them whether it be like achieving that goal or still showing up every single day, every morning. I mean, you can see people post their entire lives on
Right.
social media. So you could see, okay, so-and-so's getting up at 4:30 in the morning and getting their run in. I can get my butt out of bed.
Right, right.
So yeah,
Yep.
it's been really neat to have that support network.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you shared that having your goals put out there is motivating too. Because I felt the same way when I ran my first marathon. Telling people made it more real, but I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes I've read, I don't know where I read this, but I read one time recently that psychologically apparently that's not good. But I'm glad that you have the same experience where we're sharing it, because I have that experience of telling people like that I'm going to be more motivated to do it. Because for my first one, I wanted to run the marathon, but until I told other people, it didn't really seem like something that, I would actually gonna go and put the training runs in. So
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like everyone's different. I know
yeah.
some people it freaks them out to put it out there. It makes them psych themselves out. Like I had a friend actually reach out to me last year, actually after I ran Berlin and qualified, and
Mhm.
he was like, "It's so cool that you're able to put your goal out there because some people just like crumble under that kind of pressure." And I think
Right.
I kind of thrive on that more.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it sounds like you are too. Just kind of how we're wired.
Yep.
Mm.
I think, what I had read, it was saying something like it's a similar effect mentally to some people, probably because obviously we're both not like this, but I thought that was interesting because I guess it's supposedly sometimes for some people can be a similar effect of like you actually did it, so somehow it's not as. But like I said, I haven't experienced that, but it's interesting that I'm glad that we can kind of prove that wrong for people that do like to put their goals out there, that it could actually be motivating.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
So you said that you reached your BQ in Berlin. Could you talk to us about what you maybe changed in your training and how that race went? And I haven't had anyone on the podcast yet to talk about the marathon there. So any insights on that marathon, just for people that are considering it too?
Yeah, so it's always been a goal of mine to do all the majors.
Mm,
So I entered the lottery for Berlin last year and just happened to get in on my first try, which was really lucky because I know those
yeah.
are pretty hard to get into. And so we went to Berlin in September last year, but my training leading up to that, I had decided that I needed to take my training in a different direction. And so I hired a running coach. So I work
Hmm.
with Jessica of Sugar Runs. And throughout the winter and spring, we worked on bringing down my time in the half marathon just to work on kind of overall speed. So that
Hmm.
way, when I targeted that fall race, I kind of had some more turnover in my legs, but then um, was able to use her guidance of how to train differently. I did a lot more pace work in my long runs, which I had never done before. I had kind of just always run the long run at a consistent, easy pace. And
Hmm.
I think that was a big change for me. And it not only gave me a lot more physical strength, but it gave me a lot more mental strength going into the race that I've hit my marathon goal pace for multiple times in long runs. And so I think that really helped since the mental part of running is almost bigger than the physical part.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so yeah, that really helped in terms of my changing my training. I did clean up my diet a little bit too. I've always been a pretty healthy eater, but I tried to pay more attention about how I was fueling post run, especially like trying to
Hmm.
get the carbohydrates and everything right after the run, because that's when you kind of you most absorb your nutrients is about 30 minutes after, up to 30
Hmm.
minutes after you run. So tried to pay attention to that. And then yeah, Berlin was amazing. I definitely recommend it to anyone who, whether or not you are looking to do the majors. It was a great race. It was very different than US races that I've run before. So I think kind of some of the biggest things I dealt with there were plastic cups, which was interesting because they don't crush well. So you're running with
Oh,
plastic
yeah.
cups.
That's funny.
Yeah, so that was different for sure. But the race itself, Eliud Kipchoge set the world record in it, so it was kind of cool to say that I ran in the same race as
Yeah.
the world record. Just quite a bit behind him. Yeah, it was really cool though, and the crowd support was amazing out there, and to run a race in a different country is just an awesome opportunity to really get to see a different city since the whole city shuts down for the race.
Yeah. So when you went to Berlin, since it was an international race, like how many days did you give yourself to kind of get ready? Because you actually were able to qualify. So I know a lot of us, when we think about traveling for a race, we want to make sure our legs feel fresh. Do you have any insights for going out to Berlin for the race?
Yeah, so we flew out on Thursday afternoon. The race is on a Sunday. So we got into Berlin around Friday afternoon their
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
Um, so we had jet lag pretty badly. We got there, but I forced myself to go to the expo Friday because I knew that I didn't want to deal with the chaos on Saturday.
Right.
So we went, Friday, and then just kind of passed out and slept, which you're not supposed to do. You're supposed to adjust to their time. But because I had a marathon coming up, I didn't care. I was like, I just need to get as much sleep as I
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
I would recommend to people to give yourself at least 48 hours before. So if I could go back and do it over again, I'd probably try to fly out Wednesday night if I could. So that way I had a full Friday and Saturday to adjust.
Right.
Definitely dealing with the jet lag a little bit on that Sunday race.
Sure. Sure. I can imagine. Well, it still really went really well though. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Given we wanted to do a vacation on the second half of it, for the second portion of the trip, and so obviously with work, it couldn't take off too much time. But if I could go back and do it again, though, I'd probably take off an extra day at the beginning. But it all worked out, so I can't complain.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then you got your BQ, and then I guess, well, would you want to talk about that for listeners, just the experience of that and how that felt and,
Yeah. So at Berlin, so my coach and I had strategized, and based on my training, it looked like I was in shape to run around like a 3:25,
Mhm.
which is about 10 minutes under the then BQ time of 3:35. I know it's
Mhm.
gotten a little bit faster this past year.
Yeah.
But so I was pretty confident going into that with my training, and I had run a half marathon about 6 weeks before that had come in at a 1:35, and so I was feeling really confident that my fitness was there. But when I got to the race, it was super congested for the first almost half marathon. The
Oh,
European
wow.
streets are very narrow compared to
Mhm.
back here at like the Chicago or New York marathons. So that was something I had to adjust to. But in hindsight, I think it actually really helped me control my pace because I wasn't able to go too fast. And so I was hitting my splits around like the 750 range, which is what we had wanted me to do, to go out and around that 745 to 750 pace. And yeah, it was the first time I've ever run a race that I haven't hit the wall until like 23 miles. So I was feeling pretty good up until about 23. And I looked at my pace, and at 23, I knew I had it as long as I kept moving my legs. And that was really special. The last 3 miles, they hurt like crazy, but it was pretty emotional too, just knowing that as long as I kept my legs moving, I was going to beat BQ.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Berlin, you come to the Brandenburg Gate, which is iconic, and you get to run underneath that before you cross the finish line. And that was pretty emotional too, just
Yeah.
knowing that I was coming to that line, and it was all me against the clock. And I crossed it in a 3:28, which was 7 minutes under the BQ time, which it was amazing. Just I had been chasing that 3:35 for so long, and then to just kind of smash that time, I had realized that no longer was I going for a 3:35. I was going for like what my body's capable of, and kind of
Mm.
time out the window. And that was really special because for so long my training and everything had been so controlled by like a pace and a number. And so I think that really changed during that training cycle, is um, not putting so much stock into just one time and
Yeah.
running what you're truly capable of. So yeah, it was amazing.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing, and can definitely relate to that feeling, and hope other people listening will get to experience that someday if they have not already. Wanted to ask, Catherine, how did you keep your focus for your last 3+ miles, depending on how
Yeah.
that was measured exactly from where you're feeling that way?
Yeah. It was hard. So my husband was there, and we had actually had a couple friends come in too. Another one of our friends' wives was running the race, and I saw him out on the course cheering. And as soon as I saw him, I was like, okay, come on, like you got to look good here. Like you're been inside. So I tried to look strong. I think I just kind of thought back to like all my training and remembering how far I'd come. And even though at that point my pace did slow a little bit, I think I got down to like an 8 to 8:10 pace at that point. But it was still pretty emotional for me, just realizing that like my struggle point now was like, and if my struggle point now was like an 8:13 pace, which had been the pace of a 3:35 that I had been going for, like that was amazing to me, that like that's the point I was struggling at. Like it was no longer I'm dropping down to like the 9-minute range. Like I'm struggling at the BQ pace, and that was pretty cool. And so that kept me going, and knowing that I was so close, and the crowds just letting them carry me along, that really helped too. Just having everyone on the sidelines who had showed up. I didn't know who they were, but the fact that they cared so much about all the runners going by just was pretty special, to be a part of that and let them and their energy really pull me to the finish line.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. So then you got your qualifier, and now you have to still prepare to run Boston. So what did you do? Could you talk to us about your Boston training and anything you might have done differently for that race in particular?
Yeah, so after Berlin, I actually was signed up for the Chicago Marathon 3 weeks later.
Oh wow.
I also don't recommend that. You're back to back, so do as I say, not as I do. So I actually, as a result of that race, ended up getting pretty injured.
Ah,
So I like pulled my hamstring pretty badly, and had some issues with an adductor muscle. And so for the fall, I was pretty much just kind of rehabbing, running some easy miles. Like I think I ran a total of like 65 miles for 1 month when I had been like over 200. So it was like a huge swing. I felt
yeah.
really out of shape going into Boston
Right.
at the beginning of the training cycle. On top of the fact that it was winter in Chicago. So when I
Yeah.
started, so that was, and I'm much more of a warm weather runner, than a cold weather runner. So that was hard, feeling really out of shape for a couple months. We started my marathon build towards the end of December. And so I started out around like a 10-mile long run, 12-mile long run. So just this little, but like the fact that that still felt pretty hard was a little scary at first. But it just kind of kept showing up every day, like knowing that the gains that you make in fitness, which is kind of cool, they don't go away. Like you have to, if you get injured or anything, like you might be out of shape for a little bit, but like your body remembers, it has muscle memory, and it knows how to get back to that place that it was at. And so I trusted in that and kept showing up to do the workouts that my coach was assigning me, and fought through a pretty hard January just with polar vortex temperatures that
Yeah, you
hit
guys had a
here.
crazy winter, not just a regular Chicago winter. So-
Yeah, it was insane. So I was on the treadmill for probably about half of January, which isn't ideal for marathon training at all. It
yeah.
doesn't simulate really your experience outdoors. So that was hard for sure. But February rolled around, and I started feeling stronger. I hadn't missed a workout yet. I That's when I kind of realized that like things were starting to click again. I'd hit my paces, and surprisingly everything translated back out onto the roads once I was able to get back outside again. And I just started gaining confidence from every run. And I think that's the one thing I tell people is when they ask for advice on marathoning is it's all about consistency, and showing up every day, no matter what your circumstances are. And so that really helped me get through February. And then March came around, and I had signed up for a super hilly half marathon as like a fitness check,
Yeah.
partway through my training. And at that point, I was very nervous about it. I had done every single long run for Boston on hills, but this course, it gains about 700 feet of elevation in 13.1 miles. So it's a pretty challenging course.
Yeah.
So I was really nervous about it. but everyone talked me down and was like, just you got to do it. Just see where you're at. Like your training's going well. Just you just got to trust in that. And so I showed up on the day of, and we got blessed with like a really beautiful, like low, I think it was like high 30s, sun, not much wind. It was perfect for racing, and ended up running a half PR in 1:32. And that's when it really clicked to me that like, okay, like changes have happened. Like you're a lot stronger than you think. And I remember texting my coach and telling her like, I didn't realize like how strong I was. Like I didn't believe it. And she's like, okay, well now you see it, and now you just need to like start believing it. And that kind of led me through the rest of my training, was believing in myself, and knowing that my fitness had kind of made a huge jump in that cycle, even though I had kind of overcome a lot of obstacles at the beginning of it.
Hi friends, it's Katherine Wuestenfeld, and I'm butting in here to stop my conversation with Katherine Wuestenfeld for today. We will continue our conversation tomorrow in tomorrow's episode, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. I hope that you have enjoyed this conversation so far and being inspired by Katherine, as I know I have been, by her resilience and just determination to get her Boston qualifying time and stay focused in spite of some setbacks. So hope you're taking that message with you today. Can't wait to share the rest of the story with you tomorrow in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Fit 15. For show notes and more, visit fitarmadillo.com/podcast. See you next time.
Hi friends, it's Katherine Wuestenfeld, and yes, I'm still here. Wanted to stop by here for a few quick housekeeping things. So first, remember that Katherine will be back tomorrow to share the rest of her journey to Boston and the race she completed last week. If you are heading to London for the London Marathon, I wanted to remind you that I'm going to be there cheering on a client, and we're going to host a pop-up fun run. So we're trying to figure out the exact time that we'll try to get a group together to do the running route, the 5K route that we'll do for the charity that she is raising money for with her race entry. But you'll be able to complete this even if you can't join us at the exact time we pick. So to learn more about that, head to fitarmadillo.com/London run. That's fitarmadillo.com/London run. And you'll learn how to save your Sparkly Finishers Medal by completing your donation for the charity Get Kids Going. And that will include a Sparkly Finishers Medal. So if you like running for bling, definitely participate. If you're not going to be in London and you're interested, you can still save your Sparkly Finishers Medal. Just shoot me an email to let me know that you're not going to be in London, and as long as you complete your donation, we'll find a way to get you your race medal and make that all work. So for more on that, you can email me podcast@fitarmadillo.com, and I'd love to have you participate, have some fitness motivation in the form of that finisher's medal, and help us give back to a great cause. Okay, 2 other quick housekeeping things for you. One, I know I didn't let Katherine finish sharing her information at the end of the episode since it is a 2-part episode, but please head to the show notes because Katherine is a running coach, and I'm sure some of you are feeling so inspired and would love to have a coach just like Katherine work with you, someone who's been through that process of being determined and going after their Boston qualifier. So you can learn more about that by going to today's show notes. And finally, the last thing I wanted to let you know about is that Brianna is teaching an online group fitness class this Wednesday, April 24th, 2019. That will happen at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time, other times depending on where you are located in the world. To learn more about that, head to fitarmadillo.com/classes. If you can't make this class, make sure you vote on days, times, and formats that do work for you, because we will be hosting our first Friday fitness class next week as long as there is interest. So make sure you let us know when you'd like to have that class, and we will get that set up for you. All right, have a great rest of your day. I look forward to chatting with you tomorrow if you subscribe to the show. Bye.